My name is Ana Buitrago. I do mainly ceramics, but I also work with other mediums like wood and metal. But my main focus is ceramics. I'm very interested in that idea of like intimate space and how we individually create those spaces and how we kind of curate our own spaces, also showing interest on our own human experience. So me, as my heritage, I'm Colombian, and there's that full baggage of me and my identity that I carry within my space. And that's something that I investigate through my practice. But I was originally a painter, eh, or that's how I like to call myself. But then I discovered the powerful, like the materiality itself, and ceramic has such a history, such like it's such it's a material that responds to every movement, that also like has memory, very similar to how I work with it conceptually. So I just got stuck with it, and kind of been investigating it through almost 8 years now. there's some there's a lot of science, a lot of technical things that have just kept me in the field, and are marvelous because you get infinite possibilities, infinite results, and it's quite amazing. I think what inspires my art is the fact that life now, it's so hectic, so bombarded by everything, and the the idea of paying attention to architecture and things that surround us and how do those impact us. Of course, I do it from my personal experience, and how how I feel. I've lived in Colombia for 18 years, and then I went to the States, and how I can kind of compare those two life experiences, and how my myself feels in both spaces. So I create from that is like moment of comparing my identity in two places. It's important for me as a woman of color, Latina, of like, hey, I also like my culture also has this huge architectural baggage, and I want to delve into that space, and how intimate spaces are so important for us, and how home and nostalgia, it's a theme that we delve in our lives daily. So I create in order to make those spaces that delve into home, memory, nostalgia. Yes, I like to think about it like I'm celebrate, like through my installations I celebrate, but I also kind of cry in it. There's this duality of emotional output, that it's beautiful and at the same time it's very loaded. You will see a lot of pieces that I make, but there's also these elements that I have actually brought from here into, and they just have to be the actual object. So you can see like some sort of like time passage within the object, but I make it very segregated from the viewer, because for me it's like precious. It's like this monument that I'm making to that moment. So those moments of like stopping and being like, wow, this is the reality I'm in, and and this is beautiful. Like moments like that, it's what I like to also implement into those installations. I think that's it. That I make art as an output of. I think art is extremely powerful, and I've believed in it for since the moment I decided to study it and to dedicate my life to it. And I think it's just such a strong language on itself. It's like the most collective language, I think, which relates to me knowing Spanish and English, but I feel art is like such a universal way of communicating with each other, and so powerful that yeah, that's why I make art. I believe the fellowship is extremely important for artists in Arkansas, because I feel there's an a growing community of artists right now that need support, especially when we look even in history of art. Crafts has always been, like ceramics in this case, has always been a little bit down look. So I think Arkansas artists will benefit from having those funds to continue making for the future, for creating those archives, for being for being able to amplify their voices in the arts. It's a great opportunity for all artists to continue their practice.
Hello, I'm Azalia Molina, and I'm an artist originally from Honduras. I love creating in painting, printmaking, and ceramics. A lot of my work reflects and celebrates culture and heritage while also highlighting shared experiences. So, funny story how I started in the arts in 2014 was because I had to complete an art requirement. So, I took ceramics class and I fell in love with the medium. So I started just taking classes for fun, and eventually I graduated with a degree in the arts. So I took a pause for 3 years, and then when I moved back to Northwest Arkansas from being in Miami, Florida, I started having some opportunities in the arts, and that's where I realized that Northwest Arkansas had a space for me to develop my creative practice. So I started getting commissions on murals, and eventually I started pursuing a more formal career, and that's how I came across with the Artist Fellowship grant. And it's been a fun journey to being developing my career for the past 2 years. A lot of my work, I really love just coming back to my roots and celebrating my history and culture. Being an immigrant, there's a lot of like conflict or where your identity is and who you are as you are exploring a culture away from home. So I just like the opportunity to create work that resonates with other people with similar backgrounds and just journeys. So my work, what I want is people just to connect what feels like home while also celebrating the vibrancy and the rich culture and traditions that are across Latin America. My work has a very naive style to it. I was born and raised in a family that celebrated culture and heritage, so I was very immersed in artisan markets as well as practicing folkloric dance myself. So a lot of my work has a strong influence of very folkloric style. So in my work, you'll see a lot of vibrant colors, narratives, oftentimes not following guidelines of proportion and dimension. And I love that my work is just sparks, livelihood and joy. My work in ceramics or sculpture is a lot about utilizing some icons and figures of history. For example, my series of vessels, chronological history of Honduras. It really narrates the story of my country from the beginnings to what is contemporary now, and it's embedded on bases that have narratives around it. I'm trying to explore a little bit more of how form and color makes you reflect back on things, or you can identify things that connect you to home. Something I want people to know about my art is that I want to create work that sparks interest and starts a conversation about how, even though we might be from different upbringings, there are essential things in life that connects us as humans, such as food, traditions, music, color, even brands. So I just want people to know that there are different ways for us to connect and build a community. And those are the things that I'm trying to spark through my work is the idea that even though we come from different backgrounds, we can build something together. As an artist here in Northwest Arkansas, I'm looking forward to more opportunities just to connect with the community and other artists, as well as um, catalyzing my work in the arts. I've been very fortunate to have received this grant, which enabled me to purchase and get equipment so I could develop a stronger practice in ceramics, which is my passion in pottery. So I want to work more on installation work and ceramics, and that's the area I want to focus a lot more. I'll still use some of the printmaking as well as the painting just to create immersive experiences, but really I want to focus in the ceramic arts. One of the most important things that I believe the Artist Fellowship grant did to me was to validate my work as an artist. I think I created good work in work that resonated with people, but I was still not finding myself committed or even like thinking that I was, a professional artist myself. So just having the opportunity to and the honor to be granted the grant just was a validating point. And after that validation, I just started pursuing more ambitious projects like the solo shows that are happening. So it was just a door and an opportunity for me to start knocking on more doors and finding myself a more intentional professional career in the arts. So I'm very appreciative of the fellowship and the funds that were able for me to establish a studio. I think the fellowship is really important to create a community of emerging artists that are looking forward to develop a career in the arts.
Hey everybody, I'm Suzanne Reed. I am a glass and metal sculptor. And I wanted to take a quick moment to say thank you to the Arkansas Arts Council for honoring me by making me a part of the Individual Artist Fellowship. There were so many great artists in Arkansas, and I'm just honored to be a part of this group. So thank you so much. As we enter into my ArtNix studio, let me give you a little bit of background of how this all came to be. A couple decades ago, I was living and working overseas doing international development. Through that process, I was living in Kosovo, and a group of people decided to go over to Macedonia, where we met with a woman who was doing fused glass. So I thought, okay, I'll go and do that. I had been a stained glass artist, so I had a little bit of background in glass before then, but when I got over there, and it was just a little short, quick thing one day, and we did this work, and I thought, well, now that is really exciting. I love the way this glass works. So I decided at that point, I was going to start learning how to do fused glass. Fast forward, eventually I ended up leaving international development, and I moved to Berlin, where I opened a studio doing fused glass. I had done a lot of classes and a lot of training to get to that point. And so I thought, what a great way to expand on what I had learned. Loved my time there. But as I was going through this process, I also began to realize that I wanted to do a little bit more with the glass. So while I loved creating the vessels I was doing and sort of traditional fused glass pieces, I thought, what could I do that sort of amps this up a little bit? And I began to think, wow, wouldn't some metal work be really cool with this? So I started looking around for a metal program for artists. I couldn't find one anywhere. I looked throughout Europe, I was looking through the US, and my mom, living here in Eureka Springs, said, oh, there's this art school there. I bet they could do this. And I was like, oh, yeah, right. So I've looked all over and I can't find anything. I'm coming back to little Eureka Springs, Arkansas to do this. Well, lo and behold, the Eureka Springs School of the Arts offered classes on metal fabrication for artists. So I was in the middle of that. I took many, many classes, learned how to do the metal work. And that's kind of how I began doing my sculpture work. So what I would do is I would create metal sculptures, fabricate the metal sculptures, and then create the piece of fused glass and integrate those into that sculpture. So in a nutshell, that is how I got to be where I am today and doing what I do, which I love. What I learned was that I truly love doing larger scale work. I was able to create these sort of, think of person size sculptures. Those just became so exciting to me, and then grew even larger and larger than that. And I there was something about, pulling out my welding wand and going in and really getting after stuff, and it being so large that I actually needed people to help me move it. It made me feel like there was a strength in me that I had not tapped into before. So what I've now done is I primarily am focusing on larger scale work. I still do the small work as well and love doing that, but I love the larger scale work. So as an artist, one of the things that I feel like is important is that I give back to my community through my artwork. That is one of the reasons why I truly love doing public art. There are many people who don't have access to art in a lot of traditional ways. Maybe they don't go to the museum or the gallery, or maybe they don't study art, or whatever, they don't have that access, or maybe just haven't been exposed to it. One of the things that I would challenge other artists to do, or creatives, you don't have to be an artist, but give back to your community in creative ways. That might mean you do a mural, or maybe you create an arts trail, or you do a sip and sketch or something like that. But whatever it is to help promote creativity and get other people involved in that creative activity, I think it's truly important. And that's what makes our community whole. And I do believe that all communities are better with art. And I would like to encourage all of you artists out there to keep pursuing your dreams. Find those resources that will help you do that. And I would like to take this last opportunity to say thank you to the Arkansas Arts Council. Being a part of the Individual Artist Fellowship has been an amazing opportunity for me. I'm honored and humbled to be a part of such a great group of people. And having a little bit of financial assistance really does just take the pressure off. It's what we need, and it allows us to keep moving forward and pursuing the things that make us happy and that give back to our communities. So thank you, Arkansas Arts Council.